everyone. Thank you for joining us on this special mini series, which is Mental Health Power Up. We are joined with Gorgon and Simon, who are amazing counselors. Gorgon is with the Certified Geek Therapist, and Simon is working towards getting certified with them as well. They both work with teens up to the age of 25, 26. And I think that's incredible because I know it's really hard to work with teens. I know for me, when I was a teenager, I was going through all kinds of stuff. I won't go into it, but I was definitely going through all kinds of stuff. And I don't know. I think that's really incredible that like not only do you work in a field where I feel like we're so up and down when we're teenagers. We're learning about the world. We're seeing things that like aren't what we thought they would be, right? It's a very tough time for us when we're teenagers. So kudos to you for taking that on. I worked in a middle school once and they almost killed me. So really kudos to you. But one of our questions that we wanted to ask you just starting off and for our listeners is could you tell us a little bit about yourself? Maybe what made you decide to work with that age range? What made you want to become a counselor, and where you kind of see yourself going forward? And I don't care who goes first. I mean, we could do a death match.
What?
You guys.
That means there's only one person going.
Yeah.
Video game style, okay? No permadeath. All right.
Gorgon looks like he's keen, so I just chuck him under the bus.
Okay, then I can go then. So hello everyone, my name is Gorgon Ng. I also known as gamer counselor on social medias. I'm a professional counselor in New Zealand. I'm a full member of New Zealand Association of Counselor. As what Destiny has mentioned, I am a certified geek therapist. I'm excited to be certified because it really brings both of my passion together. And I think that's why I wanted to. And I'm glad and honored to be invited to this show by Matt and Destiny. So thank you for inviting us. Yes. So I've worked in school since 2015. So it's not too long of experience, but not too short as well. And I primarily work with adolescents and come from a background of psychology and counseling. So that helps me to understand, I guess, a little bit of the whole development because we've been through adolescence ourselves. At the time, we were just going through it with like, you know what, this is reality and whatnot. But now I've get to know a bit of the theory, and hopefully I can apply it in my session with my clients. So that's interesting.
Nice.
Yeah. Did I miss anything?
Yeah. No, that was perfect. And absolutely, you're right. It is something that we've all been through. Like all of us obviously have been through our teenage years and have dealt with difficulties. So I think it's great that you're taking your experience along with like the tools that you've learned to help other teenagers who are going through growing pains. That's what my dad calls them. Yeah. So,
very apt.
Yeah. Simon, what about you?
Yeah. So I'm also a professional counsellor in New Zealand, as Gorgon mentioned, and I work at a high school. And I guess big part for me that drew me to counselling was a number of things. My mum's a counsellor, but I didn't follow her footsteps. I don't. That's a big thing.
Okay.
You just copied your parents, but. My dad actually wanted me. He's an electrician. He's always wanted me to be an electrician. So he's. But I sort of found it my own sort of path. How I sort of my strengths and areas I sort of am quite competent in, and areas that I'm not so competent in. And that self-exploration, I found me basically in amongst of I'll just try this out. Or maybe the first year, I'll see how the first year goes. And next thing you know, I'm past the degree, and now I'm looking. Then I was looking for a job, and for working in high schools, I think as for me, I found that I was more in tune to maybe teenagers, especially that developmental stage, that identity stage, searching who they were. Because I sort of just got out of that, and then I just sort of just came out of it, and then I've still something I'm quite interested in. So yeah, that's something that sort of drew me to high school, and my placements are at high school. And especially the youth have so much energy and so much life to them. when you get to work with them, they're a lot more open-minded to try new things, and that's where I'm sort of drawn to the geek therapy, how you can use a number of different kind of geeky things or fandom things in therapy, and generally youth are quite open-minded to that stuff. So that's just like, oh sweet, this is perfect. And at a school, you get like a general view of sort of mental health. You don't get like specialized or targeted sort of areas. You just get the whole range of the community. So it's a very broad spectrum of mental health. So I thought that would be perfect, something for me, so I can adapt and sort of improve in other areas that I'm not maybe so skilled in. So yeah, that's what drew me to high school. And in high schools, it's a community, both the staff, the students, and the whole community around the school as well. So so sort of felt at home there. Yeah. And
Aw, that's incredible. I'm sorry, Matt, go ahead.
I love that both of you kind of went to the kind of same space in the same age range for that, for similar reasons, to be there to kind of help make a difference. Because I know growing up for myself, going to high school, I mean, things weren't always easy, but my guidance staff was not one that was very much for guidance. This is the path and you have to stick to it, right? Again, different time, different place, all of that is understood. But I like that you're there to try and create a difference, not just because you're be like, okay, we want you to get good grades so you can graduate. The point is, okay, here's your well-being and here's how we can try and help you get there. So I really appreciate both of you kind of taking that stance and going at it from that perspective, rather than just being get good grades and get out. Because my guidance counselor was very much get good grades and get out. And it's nice to see. It's nice to hear about people who are genuinely there to help the students, not just get good grades, but to also, feel okay and be okay. And I think that's wonderful. I think that's really, really awesome.
I agree. I think that's incredible.
And ideally, if you, I was similar to you as well, Matt. When I was at high school, it was more around like career counseling. Like get you when you're going to leave high school and so forth. But I guess now it's more actually around mental health and the well-being and so forth. Because that's ideally it's going to be with you a lot longer. That's going to be lasting compared to good grades in that period of time. Yeah.
No.
Also, I think it's just. I'm so sorry, Gorgon. Please go ahead.
No. Okay. Now, just want to jump on the whole guidance counselor part of it. That's because one of the many reasons why I'm embarking in psychology counseling is because my counselors back when I was in secondary school, like because I'm at the moment I'm in New Zealand, but I'm originally from Malaysia. And I've been through the Malaysian education system, and the well-being is not a very big thing back then. But because of my counselor, I've actually said that actually I'm interested in having this approach that's not only focused on academic, but actually to really look at are you really okay? What do you want to do next? So that is part of the experience of my high school, and I guess inspired me to be on this journey.
Oh my God, that's great. Me and Matt both lived in South Korea for a while, and we were teachers. Yeah. We taught very young children. And I think it's kind of cool that like you really do want to connect, because living there and seeing kind of the school system and how the education system is ran, I felt that it was kind of devoid of that, right? Like when the kids were feeling very emotional and stressed out. And I wanted to know, like, I know when my babies would cry or feel like that would affect me so much. And my next question was kind of like, how do you not necessarily separate yourself from it, but how do you not let what they're going through affect you like deeply? You know what I mean? Like, because that was my question.
How do you not take it home with you, right? Because Destiny, similarly, like I majored in psychology in university, and that was one of the main things that as I started going through it all, I was kind of like, I don't know if I would be able to take myself out of the situation enough that I wouldn't be able to bring it home with me. So yeah, I was wondering the same thing, Dave. That's a great question.
That is a good question. I think that's a big part of the training, or at least my training, was transference and counter-transference. So that's transference is like their stuff coming onto you, and then you might not be aware of it, and you're transferring it back onto them, and that's counter-transference. But it's also like their stuff. How do you not take that home as well? And that's, you sort of have to work around compartmentalize. So you've got to break it up into different boxes and so forth. To sum it all up, as for me, how I learned is you can empathize with them, and I think that's quite one of my strengths in counseling, but not necessarily feel everything they feel, but you can see their perspective. You can put yourselves in their shoes, but you just got to be wary that you don't become sort of the person that they now have to help, or they feel bad, and then it sort of turns a role. So you also have to be that, always be that sort of that figure, that rock, that it can be there to help them, and you don't fall into the place where they feel like they have to help you. But yeah, it's always a battle between going home and then overthinking or whatever it might be, over sort of involved with the issue and so forth. I think for me, as part of my training was narrative therapy, and the big part of that was the problem's a problem, not the person, and that takes them away from the problem. So I would think of the problem rather the person's sort of issue. So what's the problem? And that sort of helped me sort of compartmentalize and take a step back from the issues, because you get a lot of them, and then eventually you burn out, and then weigh that out with self-care. So what things I can do to care for myself and sort of in a sense distract, but also re-energize myself.
And I think a lot, and it's very easy for the counselors to actually fall in with the client, because we are taught to be empathizing, to really feel, or to be there for the client. And part of our training, my psychology and counseling training, is to really to break myself down and then rebuild from there, because I've realized that a lot of the client issue that bring into the session that they bring into the session reminds a lot of them, maybe there's a specific of them reminds myself about myself in it reminds me about
Mhm.
myself
You
in the
can see
past.
yourself in
Yeah.
them. Yeah.
Yeah, thanks for that. Yes, and because again, this is I don't have research to back this up, but a lot of our experience is and like you say, teenagers, we've been through a lot, and that's the most hurt that comes into play, our first times of a lot of things. And
Yeah.
I would dare say that a lot of adults some knots in there that we might not be able to unpack yet, and this happened in our training. And that's why the counselors who are going through training would have to go through that ourselves, so that we are
Mhm.
not re-triggered when the client bring
Okay.
those in. Yeah, so that's the first step that we would need to do as in our training. um, and I always remember this metaphor that my professor told me during my training, is that imagine yourself stepping one foot into the client's world and another foot in your own world, that you are the one
Interesting.
who with the theory, because we
Mhm.
can't got swept by the client's emotion. And then
Right.
there's two-person in there not knowing what to do. But at least if you are there to ground them, then you kind of get the feel what they're going through, and at the same
Mhm.
time not too lost with them, so that you know how to bring them back into a safe spot. And that's why it's important to have the prior training in regard to taking on clients or whatever. Yeah.
I think that's incredible. Only because like I know like I've never thought about it like that, so I'm really glad that you broke that down, because when I think about like helping someone, or not necessarily counseling because I'm not a counselor, but like giving advice to my friends, I definitely get in, like, you know what I mean? Like if they're
Yeah.
upset, I'm upset, and we're going to figure out
Yeah.
how to figure this out. You know what I mean? So
Yes.
yeah, no, I love that he said keep one foot in and keep one foot out. So you're anchored, to not to reality. I'm sorry, that's the wrong thing. But you're anchored so that you can pull them back into a safe space. And I think that's really important, and something that everyone should take away, because I know a lot of people go into therapy and counseling wanting answers, and not
Mhm.
necessarily wanting to, like, they just want to be told what to do. And I think that's a problem with our society, because since we're little, we've been told what to do. And I think that's why in high school, it becomes so convoluted, because they're like, you got to make this decision and you got to make this decision and figure all this out. And it's like, wait a minute, you've been telling me what to do the whole time. And now you're telling me I have to figure all of this out on my own. Like, I don't know what I'm doing, you know? So Yeah,
That's a good
no,
point.
that's good.
Yeah, that can be overwhelming. I mean, imagine that throwing me into a place where, like Korea, I don't speak the language. I will be, oh my goodness, what am I doing here?
And I kind of think that's the perfect jumping off point to kind of head into the middle section of the episode, where like we're going to be focusing on two major topics today, one of them being suicidal ideation and the other one being imposter syndrome. And kind of, Destiny, I like the point that you were making as kind of a segue, because I think it's really easy to try and be there for people, right? I feel like it's almost an instinct for a lot of us to be like, okay, you're hurting, I'm hurting. Let me try and let me find a way to help you. So Gorgon, my first question is actually going to be to you. I'm talking about suicidal ideation because I feel like dealing with things like depression and anxiety and the kind of the path to suicide is incredibly difficult. It's very multifaceted. It's not just, there's not ever just one thing. There's a lot going on. And I mean, the easy thing to say is, oh, okay, go to therapy, but that's not always the easiest thing to do. So what I wanted to ask you is, how do you be there for someone who you notice is struggling, right? Like just some kind of like general things, because like if you can, and it's not always that you can see it, but like if you do notice, or if you do see something, or if somebody does come to you and say, hey, I've been having these thoughts, or I'm not feeling well, how do you be there for them in a constructive way? Because I feel like the default is always, oh no, you're okay, things will get better, don't worry about it, you can do it, right? It's so easy to just throw that positive self-talk at them.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
how do you be there for someone?
Now that's a very good question, because to be honest, even after all the trainings that I've got in the past, or when I first meet a client who said to me that, hey, I'm contemplating dying,
Mhm.
even then it's hard to stay there, because it's human instinct to really pull people from that space to a positive
Mhm.
space, because that itself is contagious. I would say from a general friend, people that point of view, is to really be curious and be interested, to know that
Okay.
what is going to happen now is going to be deep, and it's not going to be easy, and it's
Mhm.
okay that I am freaking out, because a lot of time why we chuck into the positive side is because we kind of know that, okay, I'm not up for it, and I don't want to go
Right.
Absolutely.
into,
Yeah.
yeah.
Hmm.
So to actually acknowledge that, hey, you know what, it's scary, it's okay. um they ask for my attention, for to seek help, so let's hear them out. I think that's the first things that we can do as a person, when our friend, people that we know, actually come up to tell us that I'm not feeling good. The question can be, oh, yeah, well, what's going on, do you want to talk
Mhm.
about it? Yeah, that's just a small amount that we can do for that. I mean, yeah.
Yeah.
I
So
think
then
that's good advice.
go ahead, D.
I was just gonna say, I think that's good advice. Just bringing up a personal incident. I know when I was in 11th grade, I became very suicidal, and I was very anxious and having anxiety problems, to where like I would break down and start crying, and I just couldn't stop.
Mm,
And they would have to call my dad, and he'd have to come pick me up, because I was so overwhelmed with like, am I going to get into a good college? Like just a lot of things going on. And I remember I went to someone and I was like, you know what? I feel like I want to die,
mm,
and I couldn't get out of that dark place. And their response to me was, if you're going to do it, which is the
wow.
worst response to give
Mm.
anyone, right?
Yeah.
And so I ended up going through with it. I've not talked about this on the podcast before, but I ended up going through with it, and like I took a lot of pills, and I was calling my friends to say goodbye.
Mm,
And one of my friends, her mom was a nurse, and like how she got me is she actually tricked me, because she was like, well, what did you take? And I told her what I took, and basically I just took everything that was like in the house.
mm,
And she was like, well, my mom just wants to talk to you, she just wants to talk to you, it's not a big deal. And I was so afraid at that point of getting in trouble for
mm,
doing it, that I didn't, you know. So she ended up taking me to talk to her mom, but it was actually, her mom was at the hospital, and like I was so freaked out and panicked that they had to get orderlies to get me out of the car. It was a
mm,
traumatic experience. So what I'm trying to say is that I think your advice is so important, to not just jump in and try to make the person feel better. Listen to how they feel and try to get to the bottom of what is causing that feeling of, I don't think I'm good enough, I don't want to be here anymore. So yeah, no, thank you for saying that, because I think if I would have had that, that would have changed a lot for me. If someone had just been there to listen to it, because I think a lot of people, when they're thinking about suicide, they haven't, if they're telling you, they haven't completely decided that they're going to go through with it yet. They're looking for someone to save them from those feelings. So
no,
Thank you for
yeah,
sharing that.
yeah. Thank
yeah,
you for sharing, and sorry that you have to have that experience. But and at the same time, thank you for bringing up that, because it all leads back down to the next point that I have in mind. That is, not all suicidal cases stem from mental um, health issues. And that's why it's important for us to allow to have the space, even though we are not professional. I mean, in a layman, in a general population, we are not trained professional.
Mhm.
We are still human being. And I think a lot of time, what I recollect from my experience with client is that a lot of time when they talk to us about wanting to die or feeling things are just overwhelmed, they just need that energy to come out some in some way. Not everyone has a plan to go through it, but they
Mhm.
just need to be validated. And I think that's a lot. Yeah, it's important for us to know that. But and at the same time, I acknowledge that listening to it is hard to makes it, we want to do the right thing in general, but there's a stress or there's a pressure that what if I say something wrong.
Yeah.
And that's why I think that's even though we as a generation right now we are exposed to social media, the medias are talking about it, we are no strangers to mental illnesses or suicidal ideation, but it is still a scary topic to be with. I can't stress enough that if we are there for other person, just know that you don't need to be professional to be a human. Just be there, listen, you know, even if you sit there and do nothing, that's enough for at that time.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And,
yeah.
and it was good that hearing your story, Destiny, that you got to talk to someone else as well,
Mm,
an adult, and they didn't overly stress or they didn't panic. They talked to you and they were with you at that time, and they sort of had like you to ear to listen to as well. And that's also
yep.
good to know as well, is that if your friends talking to you about this or something, is that you alone don't have to deal with it. You know, you can. There's other people out there, that maybe the parents or your parents or so forth, or even professionals or helplines, so forth. That I see that a lot of my students I work with is that they sometimes they help their friends in this area and they feel like they are alone, and they're like 12 or 13, um, and they are taking on responsibility on someone's life as well. So
Mm,
is that not to feel like you're isolated or ostracized? In a sense, it's just you and your friend. Yeah, there's a lot of help out there as well. Yeah,
Yeah.
thank you for
I'll
that.
just chuck
Yeah,
that in.
and thank you guys for listening.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Listen.
Well, thank you for sharing, Dee, because I know it's not easy.
Yeah.
no.
Especially in a public space. I mean, that's one of the things that I love about our show, D, is that we do use this as a forum to talk about ourselves, because it's also part of the just trying to break the stigma down a little bit,
Yep.
right? Just to have more of these conversations, to share more of these stories, so that somebody else who might be listening might hear something and be like, oh shit, maybe I need to talk to someone, or maybe I need to take a look at something.
Mm-hmm.
So, Simon, moving over to imposter syndrome, something that I wanted to ask you is that I feel like it's, especially in our space, Destiny and I've had many a conversation about this. Imposter syndrome is something that's, I feel like it's so prevalent in a lot of online spaces, and even especially thinking back to high school, this ever-present feeling of I'm never good enough. It doesn't matter what you can accomplish. It doesn't matter. All the things can be laid out before you. Like, look at all the things that I've done, but there's that voice in the back of your mind being like, yes, you're not good enough. And it's so hard to kind of work through that and to appreciate the things that you can and do accomplish. And obviously it's a long road to get through that, but what do you think what's the first step, right? Like, how do you start working with that voice or working against that voice, or however the kind of the best way through it. But what's the first step to kind of going up against imposter syndrome?
Um, for me, because I would feel like there's that affects a lot of people, and even I would say I guess Dee has shared her sort of life experience. I would find probably still struggle with that too, even coming from a counsellor working in mental health and so forth. And I know a lot of people, other counsellors probably as well, would struggle with this. So to know that you're not alone, because a lot of times at least my experience, that voice, we just go for that voice, is just try to get you and the voice alone, and so it's just you. No one else is struggling with this. Look at everyone else in a sense is perfect, and they're achieving these goals, and they're doing that comparison, like comparing you to others, and not counting your success, but counting others' success as well. And so I find that it comes up quite a bit, and to know that you're not alone in this. There are other people, but more you keep it inside internally, that more you would feel like you're alone, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So I would say first is to talk about it, talk about these beliefs, talk about these thoughts or the doubts you have, ideally to someone you trust. And that they can open up with it as well. And it doesn't have to be a counselor, so it could be a partner, it could be someone close to you. And once you're able to talk it out, then it's come from the outside or the inside, internal, to outside, the external. And then you can maybe even, I find a lot of people don't know about imposter syndrome. They have these feelings or these doubts, and then that sounds like this. And what's this? And then you go work alongside them. Oh, we just type in this, and then that's exactly how I feel. That's exactly what I've been dealing with for a number of years. So a lot of it is also the awareness as well, sort of the education that comes with it. It's like, okay, so other people deal with this. They've been dealing with this for some time, and there's this whole thing about it, and there's this whole. So with that, they're like, okay, so I'm not just alone. But like, there's a number of things I found, like don't try not to compare yourself to others and focus on proving rather than proving yourself. Like a lot of it comes on proving yourself. Like I've got to get these goals, I've got to reach a standard, and I've got to be this. And a lot of these goals are sort of high like goals is in a sense unachievable. And then if you're going to keep failing at them, you're going to feel like you're a failure. So, and that goes with just to learn to fail better as well. Like failure is not necessarily end all. Some failure is inevitable, and sometimes you reflect and you learn from that failure and become a bit more whole in a sense. So to be okay with failure, and that you're a work in progress. That you're never, I find a lot of imposter syndrome that I have to be it right now or next year or this time and got to reach this goal. And it's like, no, I'm a work in progress. It's valuing that journey rather than looking just for that destination. It's like, okay, I'm in this journey and I will fail, and I will just try to learn and experience this failure and just reflect on it, and I'll try to keep moving on, but just to be a bit softer on yourself as well. That sort of, is this sort of, that if we go with that thoughts or that talk, is this helping me, or is this actually taking away my self-esteem? This is actually detrimental to myself. So maybe just to ask yourself, if you're feeling like you've got the imposter syndrome, or feeling like these doubts or these beliefs are quite harsh, is to listen to the tone of the voice and listen to the wording. Is this helping me, or is this actually detrimental to myself? That's what I find. And then, no, it's actually quite detrimental. It's not actually helping me at all. Okay, and then what can we do about it? How can we shine it, and how can you talk to others about it as well? Yeah.
I think that's really good. I think something I wanted to bring up is that I know a lot of millennials are kind of facing this kind of backlash and imposter syndrome where they feel like they needed to achieve a certain um, place because of like the generation before us achieved a certain place. And I just want to say to any of our listeners, if that's part of your imposter syndrome, if you feel like you haven't achieved what you're supposed to achieve by a certain age, just realize that like those ideals are very archaic. The times have changed a lot, and one of the sad things is that I realize we're still kind of pushing that idea to children, to high school students, that like by this age you should have this, and by this time you should, you know, and it's just, I think if we just instill that everybody moves at a different pace and not one shoe fits everyone, like that's what I would like you guys to take away from this. When it comes to imposter syndrome, like you're going to move at your own pace, and that's perfectly okay. It is okay to move at your own pace. Like there's nothing wrong with it. And if anybody is telling you where you need to be by a certain age, I'm going to curse. I'm just going to say, fuck them. Because like, how they move their life and how they go to the beat of their own drum is not necessarily how you have to go through your life, right? So that's all I wanted to add to the end of that, because I deal with that. Like I'm constantly like, I should have my own house by now, I should be doing this by now, and then it's like, you know what, no, I'm good. I'm doing good. I'm moving forward. I'm making positive choices in my life, and that's good. That's good. And I don't want to be stressed about where I'm not at because Susie Q and Billy Bob, I don't know who these people are, I'm just giving names.
Power couple.
The power couple have a 4-bedroom house, 2 dogs, and 3 kids. Like that's fine. That's good for them, you know? So yeah.
And it's even in the language you gotta be it's like that shoulds. You know, you should you know. You just listen to that language. You should be that. You should reach this. You should. What does that sound like? It sounds like, you know, that critic, the inner critic, and so forth. Yeah.
Yeah. And sorry, you go back.
Sorry, Gorgon. No, Gorgon. Right, go ahead, please.
Gorgon, you guys are the stars.
It's all you.
Thank you. No, I think while listening to both Simon and Destiny, one metaphor come to my mind that is, it's like we are looking at. Well, I'm going to gaming term right now. At a level 99, I don't know, paladin or knight, and you are just a you're just a novice at level 5 or level 20, and a lot of time we don't aware that we actually need to put in our time right now as a level 20 swordsman to go up to level 99 knight or paladin, and even then we only know one aspect of the person's life, that the 4-bedroom house and whatnot. But we don't really know what's the other aspect like to them. What are their values? So I think all come back down to your values is important as well. At the moment, are you committed your action into towards your value? Is this how you want to put your skills tree? You want to use bash, you want to use think of it that way.
I love that.
Yeah.
I feel like this has been very therapeutic, just to tell you both. Like, okay.
Yeah, I really love that, because like Destiny, you bringing that up, I remember like being at like 20 and being like, I'm gonna be married by 25, 2 kids by 30, and it's just like looking back now, it's like I'm turning 30 in a month, and like I just got married, and I'm perfectly happy. Like things, like it's a space that it takes time to kind of grow into. But Simon, when you were mentioning, looking at the, effervescent other, this thing that being like, look at how they're doing, right? I find myself doing that so much more often than not in a world where social media is so prevalent, especially in the space that we kind of operate in. All you're doing is ever seeing is the best faces of everyone around you, right? Yeah. All you're ever doing is saying, look at how good I am. Look at this cool thing I did. Look at this amazing. Exactly, right? And it's just, it's so in your face all the time that it's so easy to kind of drown in that, right? And to get lost in the space of, oh crap, I didn't do X, Y, and Z. Like that person did X, Y, and Z. That means I'm not good enough, or what am I doing wrong, or whatever, right? Like it's so easy to get stuck in that cycle of, okay, they're doing it, why can't I do it? What are they doing differently? And you just get stuck in this loop. Go ahead.
Comparison. Sorry. Is that loop exactly right? Is that you compare, and sometimes you're not aware of it. It's implicit as well. There might be people you follow, you really look up to, but they're really good artists, or they're really good at this and really good at that. So, I can't do it. And a lot of times it's real subtle, and then, I'm a failure because I haven't come to near their level. I'm not 99, I'm level 7, in my if that makes sense.
I love these game analogies.
Yeah, I love it.
And then it's like, I'm these guys are fighting these big bosses or slaying these big monsters, and I'm just taking on this these sort of minions or so forth.
The grunts.
And I'm just getting by. Like, look at, but you can't see their values. You can't see all this stuff that you can't really display on social media. You can't see their journey as well behind the scenes. And so it's got to sort of be wary of that as well. It's like, how am I comparing, and that sense of failure, is that really true to me at the moment, as well as is this quite helpful to me, myself, my community, my family, my friends. And what's something that's important is maybe my values, whatever, like Gorgon mentioned, is that I want to stay true to that. But you can't really display that so easy on your social media, if that makes sense.
True.
Yeah.
Very true.
No, that was good. All right, so I want to jump into our last segment, because we kind of brought it up a little bit when we were talking about keeping yourself separate, and having like one foot inside and one foot outside. When you guys need to just take a break, is there any kind of like social media, video games, comic books? Is there something that you do to kind of like, I don't know, self-care? Like what? And who am I going to go with first? Gorgon, I'm going to go with you first, because Simon just spoke. But it's not a competition, guys. I love you both.
Fight to the death.
We can do it off screen.
Yeah, we're only getting one answer out of the two of you. Who's it going to be?
But yeah, what's something that you like to do? Like on our podcast, we usually ask, what's a game that's gotten you through a tough time? So if you have a game or maybe a book or like a television series, could you share that with us and our listeners?
Yeah, gladly. I dabble into a lot of the geeky interest. But I just animes, popular movies, yay, games, all sort of games. But I would like to share that in the past, when I was still in I guess secondary school, there's this one particular game. I'm not sure if anyone of you still remember Ragnarok Online.
Okay.
Yes.
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 Mhm.
It's that actually I know, well, I don't think we still have a big base of player in Ragnarok Online, but at that time, because of the whole MMO and RPG aspect of it, I've actually uses a lot of the concept in my own life when I'm dealing with issues. So
Mhm.
as Simon has mentioned, imposter syndrome, confidence, it strikes everyone, especially when I'm a counselor sitting in a room where I do not know what to do with this client. I was like,
Mhm.
I'm a fraud. I mean, wow.
Yeah.
But what really get me through it is to think back that, hey, you know what, I main as a paladin in Ragnarok Online, and goes back down to why I like that character. That is because I like to heal and defense. And what I'm doing right now with my client is doing that. I'm just
Mhm.
defending, holding the space for them so that they can get through whatever they need to get through right now. And this applies to a lot of my other area, that, okay, you know what, I'm beating myself up, maybe it's time to heal myself. And how I heal in real life is to watch animes,
Nice.
because they have profound quotes and storyline in a lot of
Yes,
animes,
they do.
isn't
Yes,
it?
they do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Naruto strive for endurance, perseverance, friendship, the support, and a lot of the anime that I watch has that topic, that how can I
Mhm.
endure through this and to gain hope from there. And that's one part of it. And I also would like to say gaming do play a big role as well. I
Mhm.
don't, I'm not an expert in a lot of gaming, but I do play a lot of some competitive games, such as at the moment I'm playing Pokemon Unite and Halo Infinite. That's
Yes.
Okay.
great.
Yeah.
Yes, yeah. So
So
that's,
good.
yeah, it's very good, and it helps to bring out the energy. I think for me is to channel out the energy, and then I
Mhm.
can, if I want to relax, I can go to Animal Crossing or Stardew Valley.
Nice.
Oh,
Yes.
I love Stardew Valley.
Oh, it's nice, isn't it?
It's so good. Yeah.
I know. I
I'm
got
trying
my
to get in
wife hooked on
relationships
it.
with everybody.
Nice.
I
Yeah.
love it.
So that's how I normally how I normally wind down after a tough day, or when I'm going through something. Those things actually inspired me to go on, among other stuff, off screens.
Of course.
I have
Yeah.
a family and
I
whatnot.
love that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yay, tying
That's
it in with
amazing.
the gaming and the
Yeah.
anime. Okay,
Nice.
Simon, it's your turn.
He stole it all. What else I'm gonna say? No, well, similar to Gorgon, anime, manga, and gaming, and I used to do more online. Now I'm more single player, story driven.
Mhm.
And depending on my mood, depending on how much time, like I used to play a lot of Soulspawn or Dark Souls.
Nice.
But
Oh,
that wouldn't,
okay.
yeah, that wouldn't be something I just need to quickly do, because sometimes that can be quite frustrating.
Yeah.
So it's a balance between that and these other sort of story driven games, and even anime like Studio Ghibli. There's sort of the art style, and there's sort of
Miyazaki, yes.
yeah, the whole emotional sort of side behind it as well, and the sort of symbolism. So I really like that kind of things, like the archetypal kind of symbolism behind games or stories or anime. Um, as well as what Gorgon mentioned, some great quotes in there. There's definitely some real meaningful stories, and just in general, like friendships and even the community and even the individual sort of grit and or endurance. And then I tend to go to that, and then balance up with try to go out in nature. I try to go for some walks or
Nice.
something to balance, some kind of like little trek or something to with my indoor sort of I guess way of sort of relieving stress, or just sort of having enjoyment. So that's sort of
Well,
a
if you're
balance
gonna go
between
for
me.
a walk, New Zealand is the place to be, because I hear
Yeah,
it's
Yeah,
absolutely
right?
yeah,
beautiful. Yeah, like you have
so
nature
we're
all
quite lucky.
around you.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so we're quite lucky in that way, and so
Mm.
yeah, it's between that. But I game a lot, or I probably sort of slow down a bit. But there's also I get into some interesting I guess they're called sophisticated novels, and they sort of talk about mental health, but they're put into like a picture book. And so stuff
Oh.
like
That's
that can
amazing.
be quite cool, and to do my own writing, I do some creative writing and drawing and so forth. So that's sort
You're
of
an
expression.
artist?
I wouldn't say I'm an
No,
artist or
no,
professional
you're an
artist.
artist. You draw. You're an
Yeah.
artist. I love it. I love
Yeah,
it.
yeah. So that's another way of us also is to create something as well. So yeah,
Aw, awesome.
Amazing.
yeah.
Guys, thank you. Oh my god, thank you so much. This was such an
No
incredible
worries.
experience. I'm sure
Yeah.
Matt wants to say something too before like I sum everything up. But yeah, Matt, I'm gonna give it to you, please.
Yeah, no, I just really appreciate you both taking the time to meet us and to talk about all this stuff. Like when we started the podcast a few years ago, our goals were always talking about video games, mental health, social justice, and the kind of good that we can do to the people around us. And hearing you speak about the incredible work that you do is so inspiring, and even just for us to have a space to have this conversation with you. So thank you for coming on. Really, genuinely, we loved having you, and we hope you'll join us again in the future for
Yes.
a much more, a variety of conversations. But this was
Yep.
amazing.
Right.
Thank you.
Please come back, and then we can talk about your art, Simon, because I want to know
Mhm.
about the art and gaming and anime and all that kind of stuff. But yeah, we really appreciate you taking time out of your schedule to come on and talk with us. We want to use our platform to give as much positivity as we can out into the world. And yeah, if you guys have social media or anything like that that you would like to tell our listeners, you can do that right now, or we can drop it down below, because we want people to be able to follow some positive icons. Let's get rid of the Kardashians. I'm kind of over them.
It's time to change.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
time for a positive change. But again, thank you from the bottom of our hearts. Matt, I'm going to throw it over to you to sign us off. And yeah.
Wait, before we go, quick, socials. What are the socials? If people do want to follow you, what are they? Gorgon, let's start with you.
Okay, I'm on Instagram and Facebook, so
Oh, you're on Instagram?
yes, I am. So it's alliancegamer.counselor, counselor with 2L. So you
Okay.
can find me there, and I do have a YouTube channel as well, but it has been on a slow pickup. Simon and I, we do a podcast together from time to time. So
Wait, you
yeah.
guys do a podcast
What?
together?
You get through this entire episode and not bringing that up. Yeah.
Because we're
Because
shy.
it's
We definitely
the
have to
beginning
drop
one.
that.
Yeah, we're beginning.
We're gonna
quiet,
subscribe. We're gonna
Yeah, what is it?
subscribe.
What's it called?
What's it called?
It's called 2.5 Therapist.
Oh my god.
So
Okay.
that, yeah. So
Guys, go
yeah,
follow them.
Well, thank
They're
you.
amazing.
So that's me.
I have my own personal accounts, but I don't have really. I probably need to get onto it a bit more, like a business sort of account or counselor sort of account. But Yeah, I'll probably
If
get
you
back
don't
to you
have
on
any,
that.
it's okay.
I
We
do
don't want
have
you to
my
get, like-
personal ones, but I
Yeah.
probably could. Probably
I mean,
could
like
get
me
on
and
there
Matt
later.
will personally follow you to look at your art and
Dun,
stuff.
dun, dun.
Dun, dun, dun.
I'm more of a, like hermit in that way.
Close.
Yeah.
I completely understand.
Oh,
Well,
yeah, but
everyone, thank you. But
Yeah, before that, just want to say thank you for having us because this
Yes,
has
yeah.
been an amazing time and conversation.
Aw, thank
Appreciate
you.
that.
Yeah.
No, we
Thank
loved
you.
having you
Thank you
on.
too.
We want
Yeah.
you to come back. Definitely.
Please do.
Just to chill.
Yeah.
Just to
Yeah.
chill and talk about all kinds
You guys,
of stuff.
you guys did really well. I love your backgrounds as well. We probably need to
Oh,
improve
thank you. I have a
our
lot of
backgrounds.
stuff going on.
Mine looked much worse not too long ago. Destiny inspired me to make it better. So
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah.
Impressive.
All right, everyone. Well, again, thank you both so much for joining us. Everyone, thank you so much for watching. Make sure you stick around. We're going to have a run of these episodes. And once again, we are going to be raising money towards Guardians Mental Health. We are going to have a charity link going. We have some prizes if we hit some different fundraising goals. All the money will be going entirely to Guardians Mental Health so that they can make more amazing mental health kits that can go out to people who need them. So we'll have all that information in the description. Once again, please, reach out if you need to talk. Take care of yourselves. Take care of the people around you. Love yourself and love everyone else. Everyone, thank you so much for your time. We'll see you on the next one. For Team Burnout, peace
We're
out.
out.
bye-bye.
Everyone, we hope you have been enjoying Mental Health Power Up as much as we have. These conversations are incredibly important and we very much appreciate your time. But these conversations aren't the only thing that we're doing, Destiny. What is the second part to this?
Guys, the second part is pretty baller. So we're going to be asking you guys to donate money and share the information about the podcast, but specifically about Guardians Mental Health. They're this great organization that uses geek culture, the things that we absolutely love, comics, gaming, video games, to kind of help people who are struggling mentally and in a therapeutic way. And they put together these kits that they send out, and you don't have to pay for these kits. This is one of the most amazing things about what this organization is doing. They're sending out these kits, but obviously it takes money to print the materials, to get everything put together. And that's why we're raising money for them, because we want to help them so that they can help more of you guys. And Matt has got some amazing details about what you can win if we reach certain tiers.
That's right. You just need to donate to be entered. There is no amount that is too small or too large. Whatever you're able to do, $10 is what it costs to make these kits. So if you can do that, fantastic. If you could do absolutely anything, we would appreciate it. As we hit different stretch goals, we are going to be giving out different amazing gifts that we have for some amazing people that we're working with. So please hop over to that link, take a look. If you can donate, please do so. And you might just win something cool for yourself as well, because again, every little bit can make a difference in someone's life. So we thank you for taking the time to do so. If you can't, Destiny, if somebody can't donate, what else can they do to help?
They can just share the information. Share it to your social media platforms, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, wherever you have like a place that you like to interact with people online, share that information. And one of the things that I wanted to say, and I know Matt and Darren feel the same way, is we just want to thank you guys, because for each one of you that shares or donates, I'm just going to say it prematurely. Thank you so much. This is so important to us, and it's important to our listeners. And it's one of the main reasons why we even started the podcast. Like, not only was it about gaming, but mental health has definitely been a strong core that we've always wanted to talk about. So this is our first time doing it. We're super excited. We hope you're excited. And yeah, donate, share the information, win some prizes. But most of all, just do it from the bottom of your heart. You know what I mean? Like, the prizes are just kind of like icing on top of the cake.
Exactly. So please be there for one another. Help us reach other people who might need to hear some of this, because we know how much it's helped us. So thank you. Like Destiny said, we'll see you on the next one, everybody. All the links will be in the show notes below. Check it out. Bye.
Bye.